Is that right? Everybody ready? Yeah, I was going to say.
Like we got 1 minute. I will call to order the Executive Committee of Tippecanoe County for July 2nd, 2025. First on the agenda is the roll call.
Jackson Bogan.
Present.
Larry Leverins.
Present.
Diana Looper.
Here.
Tom Murtaugh.
Present.
Kathy Parker.
Here.
Jerry Reynolds. Here. Gary Schroeder.
Here.
Quorum present.
Very good. Next, we have approval of the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes for the June 4th, 2025 public hearing as submitted.
I second it.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any comments or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. New business, I'll take that first case.
I move to hear and vote on Resolution PD 25-07.
I second.
Good afternoon. Sorry for the switch up there. We had June pulled up on the screen, so we now are on the current day. Okay, so this resolution is for the Centennial's Edge planned development. These are final detailed plans, construction plans only. So this PD was approved back in October by the Lafayette City Council. And they meet all the required conditions at this stage of the development. So with construction plans only, they would be allowed to begin clearing, grading, and infrastructure work connected with the project. The building permits to begin construction can't be granted until they have approved final plats recorded and bonding accepted. Bonding has been approved but not yet submitted. This project is here in Lafayette on the south side of Union Street, as you can see on the screen. Largely unimproved except for a single-family house that will be demolished as part of the project. And there's a layout of it. It's, see, we've got 36 two-story, two-bedroom townhomes on fee simple lots. All of them will have a two-car rear-loaded garage, and they have a central walkway here. So it's a really neat project that we're looking forward to seeing. So we are recommending approval of this resolution.
Very good. Thank you, Amanda. Petitioner or the representative?
Hello, I'm Nick DiGiacomo with Tiber Design. We're the land surveyor and civil engineer for the project, and I am here representing the developer. So if you have any questions related to technical items, I can answer you probably.
Okay. Thank you, Nick. We may have some. Anybody in the audience wish to speak to this? Questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, we have a yellow ballot. And can you hear us in the back of the room okay? Thank you.
Unanimous ballot for approval.
Very good. I think I have to recuse myself, Larry, so if you can take that. Let Jerry read the next case, please.
I move to hear and vote on Resolution PD 25-08.
I second it.
All right, so this PD is both final plat and construction plans. This is for the Vita Lifestyle Lafayette. If you'll remember, they came back for a rezone at towards the end of last year to kind of densify the original project. They went up to a maximum of 204 units. So this one is here on the south side of State Route 38, largely unimproved property there. This is an age-restricted adult senior living community, essentially. We've got a number of single-story duplex buildings, some quadplex buildings, sixplex buildings, and a 4-story apartment building, multifamily apartment building. Several amenities as part of the project. Bonding has been approved but not yet submitted on this project. And, this is just phase 1. Phase 2 will incorporate lot 2, which is the commercial lot. So whenever that one is ready to be developed, they'll have to come back for construction plans on that lot. But this one is also, we're recommending approval on this one. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Petitioner's representative.
Ryan Munnin with RTS Law here on behalf of the petitioner. We concur with staff's report and recommendation and request your approval. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Ryan. Any member of the audience wish to comment on this petition? Questions from the board? You have another yellow ballot.
Another unanimous ballot for approval.
Thank you, Ryan.
So we're in the public hearing.
We are.
No cases. Approval of July APC meeting.
I move the following subdivision petitions be placed on July 16th, 2025 Area Plan Commission public hearing agenda at petitioner's request. Placement thereon being without reference to compliance and noncompliance with the adopted subdivision ordinance. S 5274 MLM minor subdivision minor sketch. S 5276 Millbrook subdivision section 1 major preliminary. S 5277 Meyer SLA subdivision major preliminary, and S 5278 350 Center subdivision major preliminary.
I second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Rezone petitions, Jerry.
I move the following rezone petitions be placed on July 16th, 2025 Area Plan Commission public hearing. Z 2981 Trinitas Development LLC, Mark Becher, the district at Tippecanoe PD, R4W and GB to PDMX. Z 2986 Robert E. Johnson Jr., GB to R1U. Z 2989 Company LLC R2 to R3U. Z 2990 BC Cent LLC R3W to R4W, and Z 2991 Select Towers to LLC R1 to A.
I second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. July ABZA.
Approval?
Yes.
Okay. I move the following petitions be placed on July 23rd, 2025 Area Board of Zoning Appeals public hearing. BZA 2202 Kevin L. Brubaker, trustee, AL and BZA 2203, Paul Luther.
I second it.
All's in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Special exception determinations.
I move the following special exception request will not be adversely affect the comprehensive plan, BZA 2202, Kevin L. Brubaker, trustee.
I second it.
All's in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Determination of variance.
I move the following request for variance from the Unified Zoning Ordinance is not a request for use variance prohibited from consideration by ordinance and statute. 2025-14, Catherine Dilworth.
I second it.
All's in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Budget report motion.
I move that we approve the June 2025 budget report as submitted.
I second it.
Okay, not pretty quiet this month. For county council next week, I'm going to be making a request to increase our legal services budget with our more robust zoning enforcement that we've been doing with our new employee and getting some cases into court. We presently are prosecuting 3. That's upping the budget for that. And we've not really encountered this level of need for legal services in the past. And so our previous budget really kind of reflected the month in, month out routine meeting type legal services that we needed. So this is a big learning year for us as we're getting used to handling county zoning enforcement more fully. So I'll be making a request for an increase and at that point that we hope will take us through the end of the year. It's going to be, the request will be for an additional $23,000.
Okay, very good.
That's it.
Any questions for Ryan? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? That motion carries. Any other business? Take that final motion.
Move to adjourn.
We are adjourned. And unless there's any delay, I will go ahead and call to order the Ordinance and Bylaw Committee for the Area Plan Commission of Tippecanoe County for July 2nd, 2025. And first on the agenda is approval minutes. I take a motion to approve the minutes from the June 4th, 2025 meeting.
Second.
No, I need a motion from
So moved.
There we go. So we got a motion and a second from Jerry. Any questions or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Second, rezoning prime farmland in Wabash Township.
All right, I've got an update for you, and I think this is going to make everybody's lives a lot simpler. Had a very good discussion with all 3 county commissioners fairly recently. Tom can correct me if I'm misrepresenting anything. But basically, we're sort of flipping this effort on its head. And instead of people having to opt out, they get to opt in. And so we've been telling people who have been coming to us that essentially if they're not interested in having their property rezoned to the AA zoning district, and for the vast majority of them, it would be from A to AA. That's what would be on the menu. That if they don't want to, then there's nothing they need to do. They're already opted out. We've got enough people that came in, you remember from the last time's meeting, that were generally against the idea that it just made sense to do it that way, and I think the commissioners agreed. And so we've sent out a release to our media partners this morning, or this afternoon, explaining that. We've updated our website, explaining what this is and what it isn't. Hopefully we were clear enough. But essentially, since this was sort of continued to the August hearing, we were going to take the month of July basically to take in the willing participants. If you'd like your property rezoned AA on our dime, call us and we'll get you in. Otherwise, we'll assume you're out. And if you want to rezone later to AA, then you'll have to pay for it yourself. So that's been the change in policy with respect to this effort. Did I get that right, Tom?
Yes.
Okay.
And then those folks wanting to move forward with the rezone, will that be presented at September APC? Is that?
Presently, because of the continuation, it's because it was advertised, so it was advertised to the August hearing.
Okay.
So obviously, we enjoy an unlimited amount of continuances, so if we want to continue to September, we could.
Okay.
So.
And then, but that will just be one zone, one rezone. It won't be.
Run, rezone, multiple willing participants.
Okay. Okay.
Including Mr. Byers, I understand, is going to join the team.
So would you have an update for us at the August ordinance committee, maybe how many people are?
Yes, yeah, we certainly could. By that point, we'll have had, heard from the folks that want in and probably be able to identify them for you on the map, or at least let you know their addresses. We already had kind of a couple early on, and so they're included, and then whoever we get for this month, we'll get them in and take care of them. So.
Do you have a deadline of when they need to let you know?
Well, essentially, no, because the legal description's shrinking from what originally was to however many willing participants are left. So to that end, we can really change the legal pretty close up to the hearing in a pinch. So if we get a straggler coming in the night of the hearing, that might be to bridge too far, but maybe the day before? No? Okay, yeah. A week before? Yeah. Preferably in time for the packet deadline. So the Thursday before the hearing would be preferable. That way everything's set and the packet is accurate.
Okay.
Any questions?
Questions or comments? Let's take public comment first. No, let's do public first if we can.
I'm just kidding.
And I was going to say, I'm so deeply honored to be in front of this board, is what I was going to say. 20 North 3rd Street, David Byers, 6521 North, 450 West. And I really don't want to throw a curveball on this and such, whatever, but I've been doing a lot. When you mow hay, you do a lot of thinking, unfortunately. What I really kind of want to think is, what's the incentive to go from A to AA? Okay, I've seen what you can build, what you can't do, what you can, things like that. And if we're calling AA our prime ground, if we're calling that our food and fiber ground, what we're going to call it, basically. We're saying this is the prime agricultural ground, this is what we're going to raise food and fiber, this is what we're going to help take care of people. Give us reason, is the way I'm looking at it. I want to preserve our farm. Our farm, we are receiving an award from the state this year for 160 years of having our farm and our family. I want to preserve it down the road. I'm not against what's going on against Shelby Township right now, but a lot of that's AA ground. That's prime ground. And if we want to say AA is our treasure for agriculture, and I've been getting, unfortunately, pushed up the ladder at Farm Bureau, and I brought the same question to them. They're like, how do we preserve, and other counties are talking to us, how do we preserve that good ground? And that's why I simply want to say, maybe AA is strictly food fiber. No buildings. I mean, I don't want to say buildings. You're going to have your homestead, stuff like that. No vet schools, no this, that, whatever. It's save that ground. So I'm just throwing this question against the wall. They do an excellent job. Don't get me wrong. You all do an excellent job too. But I'm just trying to figure out, I know a lot of my neighbors, and they want to kind of protect their ground down the road. But right now they're saying, what's the reason? What's the purpose? It can still be changed, and I get that. But if this sets another high hurdle to protect that ground, that's what I'm looking at. So I thank you for your time. Next time I'll remember to bring kittens in to give you each one. So thank you. Unless you have any questions or whichever.
Thank you, David. Any questions for David?
Yeah, well, you said what is the incentive? Is that what you're
Right.
to do it? What do you mean by incentive? Like, is
The incentive
there-
that you're somewhat protecting that ground and you're putting that other hurdle up there. Yes, we know it can be rezoned. We know that.
But
We
what's the
understand.
incentive to the landowner other than just preserving
Trying to
for
protect
what
it a little
they
bit.
want for the future?
Right.
Any
So-
ideas?
Well, that's what I'm saying. And I don't want to open the solar energy right now or whatever. I really don't. That's your guys' headache. No. But no, I think it is, if there's businesses coming to this area and they're seeing this is AA ground, they're like, well, okay. They really want to those landowners really want to protect. Now, I know anybody comes in and writes you a check for X amount, thousands of dollars, your attitude could change yesterday. I get that part. But when I look at the differences of what you can do on A, what you can do on AA, they're almost the same. So really, I almost say, why are you even doing this? Let's just leave it all A. In a roundabout way. But if you want to take the next step and try to make the AA a little more somewhat protected, maybe the ordinance needs to be tweaked a little bit on what can be and what can't be put on the ground.
Okay.
So that's kind of the way I look at it. Any other questions? All right, let's go feed cattle. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you. Now,
Should you
anyone
be
else?
having cattle on AA ground?
Yeah. I don't think he heard you.
Should you be having cattle on AA ground?
Well,
He said food and
livestock,
fiber.
food, fiber.
Fiber. Gotcha.
You know, that's base, you know, you can say food, fiber, energy, if you want to say that. Because we produce corn that goes into ethanol, which that also then means solar fields are energy. You know, easy way to look at it. But, you know, I look at my area, and Tom's heard me say this, right across the road from me, 600 and some acres. And this guy's all about this. And he lives in Virginia. So if a solar company, which I know they're knocking, I've had 3 different companies knock on our door. He could easily, hey, there it goes. Now, I'm not saying I'm against that, and he may stay A, and that can happen, and that's his right. And I get that part. But if I know where my mom's field is, our fields, our neighbor fields, and that's all become AA, who knows? Once again, why should we look at AA? There really isn't that much. All right, thank you for your time.
Anyone else wishing to speak to this AAA rezoning prime farmland issue?
Kenny McClary, 942 Chepstow Lane, West Lafayette. Just to concur, I guess, with David's comment, as an engineer looking at AA land, certainly you look at drainage features, soil types, and the use of that ground, certainly the most ideal use of AA ground, not only from a preservation standpoint, but just from a general soil and water conservation, water quality standpoint, agricultural activities are truly the ideal use of AA land. And therefore, from a comprehensive plan or from a general ordinance standpoint, supporting to continue that use of that ground where that is appropriate and desired is certainly something to look for in both your current efforts here with what you've got in Wabash and Tippecanoe Township, but also as you consider the comprehensive use plan and what are the preferred versus the potentially accepted uses in the various qualities. AA ground is well suited for what we use it for today, food and fiber. So just concurring with David's comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to this? Steve.
Steve Clevenger, 4011 Black Forest Lane. Just a little bit of history. The AA zone, I don't know when it first went into effect, but it was before my time dealing with this body. It's probably it's probably like 45 years ago. And in fact, you know, I don't remember if it's Shelby or Sheffield Township, one of the two. There's actually a bunch of land that was rezoned to AA to prevent a landfill from going in at one time. I mean, that was before my time. So a lot of the whole idea behind the AA zone was to protect farmland. And it was in a time when the community was much smaller. And they'd actually got most of the outer townships, but then they got the Wabash and Tippecanoe Township. They wanted to wait till they had the comprehensive plan done. That was supposed to happen again before my time. And it just happened a year or so ago. And so because of all the resistance that they ran into with trying to redo the comprehensive plan. So we've kind of come full circle, probably 40 plus years in the making of this whole AA zone. I mean, again, that's my understanding of where we're at and why we're at it today. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Anyone else wishing to speak from the audience? Questions or comments from the commission?
Gary?
Yes.
I've been kind of wrestling with the same question that Dave is bringing up, that, what's the difference? Why are we doing this? Because, looking at the chart, there are things that you can do in A that you can't do in AA, but all you have to do is rezone, right? So what's the big deal? And I'm very much in favor of protecting the farmland, but I really wonder what this does that protects it any more than what we already have. Because if I have AA, I can still do what I want to do with it by rezoning, or I can sell it and get it rezoned. And that's not a reason not to do this. It's a question out there as to, is it more bureaucracy more than anything else? Amanda.
I guess one thought that we had was, there's no guarantee that you would get a rezone to A if you're A. So say you have AA zone land and you wanted to do something that isn't allowed there but would be allowed in A. There's no guarantee that you would get that rezone. So there is that protection for that AA land. And there's no guarantee if you're trying to go from AA to R1. It's a little bit more difficult to do that, to bridge that gap.
To your
story,
knowledge,
down in Laramie Township a few years back, there was a proposal, there was a zoning violation for a rodeo. That ring a bell?
Oh, yeah.
A lot of Laramie Township is zone AA, like Shelby. And you can't have a rodeo in AA, but you can in A with a special exception. So they were proposing to do a rezone from AA to A. It was already zoned AA, and so the fate of that property lay in the hands of the elected officials, the legislative body. So ultimately, the guardians of, if we endorse a big preservation zone and impose it on the land, it really is up to the elected officials to safeguard it. So when someone does come in with a rezone petition, they're turned down. And then if that happens enough time, eventually people catch on and stop trying.
Okay.
So, but you're right. It is only one rezoning petition away from becoming I-3 with a factory. So.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, that hit a little too close to home. Yeah. But with no smokestacks, just emits water vapor. No problem.
Yeah, Ryan, while you're up there, because and Ryan and I had a nice conversation yesterday. I want to bring up a couple things. I'm going to go through a sequence of events, and this is more about direction moving forward than past, but I'm going to bring up the past so that we can forge ahead, if you will. So the first time that the full APC, I'm asking you to correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, heard about the letter going out and the A to AA was at the full commission meeting in, is that April or May? One of them.
Amanda will remind me here. I think there was an ordinance committee appearance.
It was an ordinance committee meeting, April, I think.
Yeah.
The ordinance did vet it?
No.
No.
That's when we had a room full of people that got the letter and were concerned.
Right. So, but the first time that anyone on ordinance, or the first time that the full body heard it was the month prior to that, right? And then at the meeting with the 17 of us, we sent it back to ordinance.
No, APC has not heard this yet.
Yeah, I think ordinance committee recommended that it not
Okay, I'm
go
getting
until
confused
August.
on-
Yeah.
It didn't go back. It's the first meeting, we had a room full of people, and then they said, well,
But
you
it was
could opt
scheduled
out.
on the, it
Yeah,
was scheduled. That's where I'm
right.
getting confused. It was scheduled for the meeting.
Right.
2
Yes.
weeks, and the letters and everything had already
They
been
already
sent out.
posted it, and then we put in a 90-day.
Thank you. Thank you for the
90
clarification.
days, so I can see.
What I'm wondering is if going forward, before we, and I'll say that maybe jump the gun a little bit on getting the letters out, and this is not a knock on staff at all, but I'm just trying to, here again, as we move forward, would it be better before we notify the public on certain things, if the ordinance committee is going to be challenged to vet it, if you will, if we should vet it prior to doing and taking other actions that we might have to, like we are today, retract and start over? Because now we're going to have to send out more letters. Staff has a bunch of time in on this, which maybe we could have stopped all of it and helped. It's just a thought, and so I'd like to open it up for discussion from a sequence of what we would like to see going forward.
Okay. Well, you'll get a similar shot at this when the WEA Sheffield Township's plan is eventually finished, approved, adopted, and then we contemplate zoning changes in those townships. So we'll get another chance at bat, so to speak, there. But for this point, yeah, I mean, because there's still kind of more to, in our opinion, to look at in Wabash and Tippecanoe, kind of phase 2 of this. Once the AA thing is over, we anticipated going back and looking at other targeted sites to bring them into conformity with the plan.
So prior to doing,
what do you want to see before
that's
we
my question
start
to the
talking
group.
with the commissioners or with staff?
Well, no, you
What-
have my permission to talk to the commissioners whenever you like.
Okay. I'm sure they appreciate that.
So Jackson, from our standpoint, the implementation strategy in the plan gave us the permission or the order to rezone.
Right.
That is where we took our orders from, was from the adopted plan that said APC shall follow up this plan with a rezone.
Right, which is sort of a standard language that
wasn't
we've used for
necessarily a
decades.
skipping
Yeah.
any kind of permission from ordinance committee or a review or a vetting
Yeah.
or anything. That's where we got our orders from.
Right, and I mean, this is just to kind of set the context, but I did discuss this specifically with the commissioners also, and they agreed that especially for these kind of mass rezoning efforts, that before we kind of start tiptoeing down the path and even have a staff discussion about it, to kind of touch base with them first and say, all right, ultimately you're going to have to endorse this. Where do you want us to go with this? The plan you just adopted recommends all these changes. What's first? Or do you want to do nothing? Do you want to just let the market decide? And it just becomes a list of suggestions. But, legislative bodies enjoy the right to rezone their own county, so if they have a compelling reason politically to want to do that, I want to make sure that they know that and can use that power for the betterment of the community. If they choose not to, for whatever reason, or maybe just do it in little bits and pieces, or however they want to do it, that's fine. And so we sort of agreed that, like, for example, the next phase of Wabash Tippecanoe will open that up. There's little things like the amphitheater site is a dead PD zone for the old play that they did there for a month or however long it lasted. There's nothing else you can do on that property. Yeah, it's a simple fix. I know the I-3 site on River Road is of interest because of the controversy involved with that site. There's some other folks that I would probably welcome some of the downzoning that is proposed in the South Wabash area, for that area. So there's other things that we're interested in pursuing. And I think our first stop would be with the commissioners, say, where do you want to go next? Here's what the plan says. What do you think? Then we can kind of, I think, separate it, like, well, are there any rezones that the commissioners want to pursue on their own, whether a property owner wants to or not, and then separate that from, those that we may want to either opt in or opt out, give them a chance, and then that group gets letters, And if the commissioners say, all right, in this instance, let's do an opt-in thing, why don't you send letters saying, hey, we're interested in doing this. If you're interested, please contact us and we'll include you. Otherwise, we'll assume you're out. Or we do it like we've historically done it, and in the past where we've said if you want to opt out, we could do it that way. So there's those are kind of the three different paths that we could take.
Okay. I do think it's we have to be careful about rezoning other people's property. I mean, that's not something I'm comfortable doing willy-nilly. So, I mean, that's something I think we do need to keep a very...
Yeah, and that's purely discretionary. The state says you can do it if you want to do it.
I guess where I felt uneducated at the ordinance meeting, I correct it, at the ordinance when all of a sudden everybody had letters. I hadn't seen the letter. I got a copy of it during the meeting, and I was caught off guard. And I didn't feel that was fair to the public, that we already had a meeting scheduled at the full APC meeting in, 2 weeks?
Right.
And we're supposed to be hashing it out. Well, if we've already sent letters and we've already put it on the agenda, what are we truly hashing out? And I don't know if that's what we want to do, but the feel or the vibe that I got at the last ordinance meeting was that everybody was like, hey, whoa, we should have talked about this. And that's kind of the reason I'm bringing this up today.
And I think I'm confident that won't happen again.
Okay.
Yes, based on our conversations with Ryan. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, it looked like you were doing something. We weren't even aware of what was going on.
Right.
And these people already had information we didn't even have.
Right. Well, and I think I think we went into it thinking that this was going to be a bit of a no-brainer because, I mean, it's essentially preserving farmland per the use table there. And that was a miscalculation on our part, so I apologize for that. We thought that this would be a cakewalk, and we figured other potential things would be more controversial, but I think that, certainly going forward, we could not even put it on the agenda, the APC agenda, just put it on an ordinance committee. Let's have our first conversation, see if it takes us till 6. If we need to take another month, we'll say, hey, we'll redo another month.
Yeah.
Or if you want to do a special meeting, we could do that.
Would it be just as you do with the commissioners, just give us a heads up on this is what you're thinking, we're trying to just, I don't know, like a report kind of thing to ordinance that says, hey, this is what we're thinking, this is what we're working on, this is where it's coming from. It gives us a chance then to actually then go to the plan and take a look at it. Not that all of us have read it and memorized it yet.
Fair enough, yeah.
But, just to give us, that's all, just a heads up.
What I think I'll do is, in the director's reports, usually I just kind of separate it, transportation planning, current planning, and then I kind of list everything that's going on or pending. I could maybe make something a little more obvious, like projects we're working on, so that it's clear that this is kind of in the dock and is eventually going to get here, I mean, for example, I'm nearly finished with my work with West Lafayette staff on the West Lafayette Downtown Plan, Second Amendment. And, that's not an ordinance per se, it's a comp plan resolution. But I've had it on my director's report for a while saying we're still working on it, and we are, but we're finally coming to an end. I maybe could just have a separate section in that report, since that goes out monthly, keeps you up to date on everything, that specifically talks about maybe pending projects, rezoning efforts that will come to this body,
And then we have a responsibility then also to read that.
Sure.
That comes back to us too.
I could certainly make a better effort to kind of emphasize it. So I'll look into doing that.
And I don't want to diminish the work that you all did on this. I know you had a lot of time and energy.
Do you feel diminished? Okay.
Yeah. So thank you for all that you do.
Okay.
But overall, thank you.
Oh, of course. Here to help.
Okay, other questions or comments on prime farmland? I have some, and I'm sorry to see David leave. as he made his comments and he runs out. But I've been involved in row crop farming probably as long as David and maybe more, because he started in the dairy business and they're probably growing hay and some corn for silage. But I think I said this before, but prime farmland today doesn't mean what it did 50 years ago, where there was a large yield discrepancy between the two. What we used to call marginal land just would not grow crops, but advancement in hybrids, technology in farming, there's not a big difference between prime farm ground and marginal farm ground. You can get 80, 90% of the yields even during droughts. So maybe what was set 40, 50 years ago was a big deal. I wanted to hear his opinion on this today. It's not that big a deal. So when you block off areas of ground because you think you need that ground for some reason, opposed to that ground being used or that land being used for something that would serve the community better, whether that be a school, subdivision, some other activity. As your community grows, utilities expand, you just can't stop because a perception of prime farm ground. There's lots of farm ground, yields are going up all the time. They've doubled in the last 40 years. So our food production is double what it was 40 years ago, and we're putting more ground into production. So that being said, I just wanted to hear David's comments on that, but he is gone.
Well, I remember as a kid, I used to be able to walk through cornfields. Now you can't.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah.
So, well, if there is any interest in revisiting the A and the AA zones with respect to what you see up here, the P's and the S's, let us know, and we can open up the hood and take
So
a
what I was
look.
going to say, people who want to preserve their ground, there's lots of options to do that. I mean, like you said, it's up to the family. If they want to preserve it, they just don't sell, and that happens. They want to keep it, but sometimes 2 or 3 generations down, they don't have the same farming interest that they do today. And, as I said before, USDA, Department of Agriculture, has lots of programs for conservation, and they pay money. If somebody wants to, and most of theirs is erosion control and preserving ground, they will pay you money to do that. So there's lots of options besides the Plan Commission, and I'd call the USDA the experts in farm ground. They have people that's what they do. So maybe it's a lot to do about nothing, because as we expand, Tom owned land that's now the Caterpillar plant on there. Now, if his dad didn't want to sell, that's not a good idea to leapfrog over that. So anyway, that's my thought about AA. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, it looks like we're down to citizens' comments. Any other citizen comments before we adjourn the meeting? Hearing none, I'll take a final motion here. We are adjourned.
Hey, Gary, your comment reminds me of, do you remember when Peter Bunder was